And we're live with Conrad Cook, strong safety, outside linebacker, running back, receiver, do-it-all player, Dublin Rebels, Irish Wolfhounds. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Three
Wolfhounds,
caps. Yep.
born and raised, let's go, St. Petersburg, Florida?
In
Where are you
Petersburg,
playing?
Florida. That's right.
St. Petersburg? That's all right. Perfect. St. Petersburg, Florida. So start me. Uh, First sports. What's your first sport?
Well, funny enough, my first sport was actually soccer.
Oh, this,
My dad was a
4 or 5
college.
years old?
I think I was actually about six
Okay.
years old. And then, yeah, played two. My dad played college football, so that's kind of drove the passion in me. He played for Middle Tennessee State, and then he transferred to Florida State, and that's where he ended up on a track scholarship for. So I grew up watching, the greats like Warwick Dunn, Deion Sanders, and countless others go through the school. So I wanted to play from a young age, but I don't know why he never played soccer in his whole life, but for some reason he said I had to play 2 years of soccer before I played football. So that
You
was it.
started just slow with the contact, and then you were still into it, and then started football.
Yep, that's it exactly.
So what else were you
So eight.
playing besides football?
That was it. I had stints in doing boxing and martial arts and stuff like that, but it was always American football and soccer for me. So
Perfect.
those were
So
the two.
tell me about those early years, youth football. What are your first kind of memories of playing American football?
Well, similar to
Sport.
yourself, my dad was my coach for many years. So my first few years of football, my first 4 years in football were coached by him. So he was a great mentor. He was my dad, so he was tough at times, but he instilled a lot of fundamentals that carried me to where I am today, in those early years of football. And I think that kind of stands true, like, and is a testament to me, like playing now at 36 years old, is having such a gaining this skill set at such a young age.
Yeah. What kind of positions
So
were you playing when you started out?
when I started, it was wide receiver. I was playing quarterback. My dad was a quarterback in college, so he had big dreams for me as well. And I think when I was younger, that was kind of where I wanted to play as well. So I had the best mentor and coach around me, for quarterback. So that's where I started. And then I guess a utility player. So I'd be used wide receiver, quarterback, some running back, and then as far as defense goes, it was pretty much always linebacker and strong safety for me. I don't know why. It fit my mold, and it fit my skill set, and that was the position for me, I think,
How
overall.
were you guys early on? Team was good.
No, we actually really bad. I think my first season. Well, I think we were shooting at about a 500. Like I think we were, win half the season, lose half the season, kind of thing. Where I grew up is a big football area. So
In the
there's
water.
a lot of great teams. St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Tampa, and all that area. So yeah, first 2 years were rough, and then second 2 years we started getting a lot better.
Okay. So then your dad's no longer the coach, and someone else took over, or what happened? Switch teams.
Yeah, so he coached me. It was flyweights when you started out, and then it was mighty mites, and then after that it was pee wee. So he coached me up to pee wee, and then after that, that was kind of the transition period into high school. Then,
Okay.
so
So
he
you're
kind of
like what grade then? He coached you till about eighth grade.
sorry, yeah, till about eighth grade. Yeah, eighth grade. Yeah,
Okay.
and
Perfect.
then yeah, and then it was to high school after that. So.
Perfect. So where'd you go to high school?
First high school I went to was St. Petersburg High School. St. Petersburg Green Devils was the football team. So I was there. I was in a program, like it's called International Baccalaureate. So it was like basically a really, like I guess it was like an advanced high school or whatever, that you had to be accepted into. But I was kind of a social butterfly, so that didn't work out the first year. It was really tough curriculum, and really, they were prepping you for college from ninth grade. So it just wasn't fitting in with my social life. So the grades started to slip, and then my second year I transferred then to my zoned high school, which was Lakewood Spartans.
Nice. And so how was football that first year? Okay, or mostly focused on the fun stuff of being in high school?
Yeah, I mean, the first year was tough for me, to be honest, man. Like I was a late bloomer. So, I was, in little league and stuff like that. I had the speed, I had, the determination and, all of this to kind of, and the skill, the fundamental skill set to get me by. But, once you got to high school, it was like 14 years old, people started getting beards and, you know what I mean? Like getting to 6 foot tall. And I was the guy who didn't hit my growth spurt till after 10th grade. So the first year was kind of tough because I knew, there's, when you get to high school, yourself, the line starts getting a lot taller and, if you're under 6 foot, you're probably not going to be, developing as a quarterback, or at least not anytime soon. So that's when I kind of made my transition over to mainly defense. Then it was, line. What I always thought was, if I couldn't be as tall as everyone else, I'd work harder in the gym and I'd be faster than them. Because if you're the fastest guy in the field, then the biggest guy in the field can't catch you. So you can eliminate all the problems right there.
Yeah, exactly. So how was the second school, same idea, you were playing mainly defense?
Yeah, I was involved with special teams and then defense. I was playing strong safety, more mainly strong safety, linebacker, whatever whatever kind of
Did you make
whatever they're using.
varsity as a sophomore?
I started on junior varsity when I went to the new team, and then I got moved up to varsity.
Perfect. And
So
how was that team?
that team was a lot better. Lakewood was a really strong football team. Always, they were state contenders, 4A school. The other school was 4A as well. But this one was just, they were known, for their football. So it was a step up for sure, definitely.
Goes up to 4A or 5A? What's the highest?
6A
Okay.
were all, back when I was playing, 6A was as high as it went. And those were, the bigger private schools.
Yeah.
We didn't really have any 6As where I was in Florida. A lot of the 6A schools were East Coast and then down near Miami.
Yeah.
You have a lot of private schools that were competing at a really high level. So obviously it's based on the graduating class. So down there you'd have a higher population. So you'd get up to 6A.
Yeah. Perfect. So when did you feel like that the switch kind of happened in high school where you kind of raised your game a level?
Um, sophomore after freshman year, I really felt it. I felt like, I needed to do something. I had a couple, kind of big brothers on the team that looked out for me. They were big linemen, 6'3", their dads were similar stature and had played football at a high level. And I think, they kind of mentored me and got me into the gym. I started going to the YMCA, and just literally, that was when it clicked. It was like, you know what, I can't rely on myself to grow, or can't predict when I'm going to grow. So like I said, at that point, I just had the mentality where I'm going to get as big as I can. I'm going to get as strong as I can. I'm going to get as fast as I can. And that's really where it switched for me.
Did you play other sports in high school?
Yeah, I was still playing competitive soccer. So I
Perfect.
played soccer right through high school as well.
Would you have said if you were a typecast in a high school movie, were you the football player? Were you something else? Like, were you super into football or was it more varied?
I guess I was kind of I was one of those guys that kind of tapped into everywhere, like I had, I had a good social life. I had a lot of friends on the football team, had a lot of friends on the soccer team, so I'd say I was, and to my downfall as well, I'd say I was kind of, jumping from area to area, or, you know what I mean? It was, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. No, I wouldn't really pinpoint myself on anywhere. I'd say I was just, one of those guys. I was a funny guy. I was a class clown. I was, an athlete. And at the same time, I was a bit of a troublemaker too. So
So junior year, how did junior season go?
junior season was kind of, actually that's when it went a negative for me. The reason I wear number 8 is, my best friend in high school and middle school, he got in a bad car accident. That was his number for baseball. In my junior year of high school, he got in a car accident. and crashed head on into another car and passed away tragically. And it was pretty intense. Like I had, sorry, so that was my junior year. Before that, I was kind of just I was having issues with my grades. So the grades started to affect me. And I got pulled from the team. And then my senior year, it was kind of like I wanted to go out and, my senior year and really make an impact and see what I could do, and take it to the next level. But, when this happened, it kind of put everything it just sidelined everything for me, to be honest. Like I lost my focus. I lost I just kind of lost, I really lost my drive for football at that stage, tragically.
Yep. So going into college, what was your thought process then? You haven't played the last 2 years. You kind of want to go in college. You want to study. You want to do what? What are you thinking at that time?
Yeah, college was tough then because I knew, like, I just felt like I was, I was trying to make up for lost time at that stage, because I felt like I let myself down in a lot of ways in high school, because of the grades. And then obviously, I just kind of lost my motivation. So college, I was fortunate enough. I turned my grades around. I got an academic scholarship. So obviously my last 2 years, I was inactive for majority of it. So I didn't get any scholarships. So I was set. I'm going to Florida State. That's where my dad, graduated from. And, I was a Seminole my whole life since I was a baby. So I got an academic scholarship. I got accepted to Florida State. I went there, and, that's when it kind of started again for me. And, I had, then it was like, if you can't do it that way, then the next way is to walk on, and that was my whole mindset going into college, to get back involved in football any way I could. And, from there it was, I joined a fraternity, and I had a couple of fraternity brothers that were on the Florida State football team on the practice squad. And, they kind of talked me through it and had me pumped about it. And I started just playing intramurals again. I'd always play pickup games of football with friends, but I started getting competitive with, intramural flag football again, which was all you had, other than the, NCAA football. So I was training with that, got back into the gym, was training hard, working on my speed, conditioning, all these kind of things. And, that was my mindset in college, school and, focus on becoming a better athlete, or, what I mean, making up for lost time.
Nice, nice, nice. So you finished school, 4 years, 5 years. How'd that all go? Stayed at Florida State the whole time, or what happened?
Yeah, I stayed at Florida State. So sorry. So I was in. So my dreams of walking on were crushed later. My Achilles heel in life, I think, was motorcycles. So when I was in college, I started getting into racing scramblers or dirt bikes, and ended up breaking a two hands worth of bones, and herniated my L5 vertebrae. And at that stage, it was kind of like, I didn't think there was going to be football in my future anymore. So I finished out my academic scholarship. I graduated. It ended up being 5 years. I got my bachelor's in criminology and psychology. And then I wasn't sure, man. I was planning on going to the Marine Corps. That was the next step for me, because I just felt maybe I needed it. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, or what direction I wanted to go in. When sports was off the table, it kind of, definitely threw a loophole in my, dreams or ambitions. But yeah, that also fell through then because of my motorcycle injuries. So after that, the plan was always move to Ireland.
So as 23, 24-year-old, you already knew, like, I think I want to move to Ireland?
Yeah, well, my mom's originally from Dublin. So, as a kid, I used to come over here, and visit. Half my family lived here, so I used to come over and visit. So I don't know what it was. When I was a kid, I had a real strong connection with my Irish blood. And I remember coming home from Ireland, and, 5, 6 years old, and crying because I didn't want to go back to the US. I wanted to stay there. It was, I don't know how to explain it. It was just something inside of me that knew I always wanted to be here. So when I had a couple, what I mean? When I had a couple of situations like that kind of, didn't go through, I decided my best bet was, move to Ireland and, pursue my dreams over here.
Would you say you grew up in an Irish house or an American house? with that?
It's so hard to say because my dad's so American and my mom's so Irish. It was literally, it was like living in a house with two rival college football teams. And
What would you
dad
say
very
what's the big difference in the Irish culture to the American culture you saw going off in that house?
Yeah, it's just my dad was an athlete. He wasn't, he lived his life by football. And his dad was in the military, and was worked in jails and all this kind of stuff. So he was very disciplined and by the book and all of this. And whereas my mom was, she was just kind of really laid back and would never let anything bother her. And super positive. So I think maybe the Irish are a bit more there's a bit more humor in everything. They take everything with a grain of salt, where I think my dad anyway was a bit more
Americans are pretty intense.
yeah,
Kind of all
intense.
in
And
on
just,
things.
yeah definitely.
We're loudmouths, apparently.
Yeah,
That's the word on the
yeah,
block from us.
yeah. You're not so bad though. I hope I'm not either.
What would you what's the biggest difference in what you expected from Ireland and something that when you got here and were living here surprised you?
You know what? It's football. Like, I never knew football was played here. Like, it's the craziest thing. I'd come here my whole life. I visited here my whole life. There's nothing surprising to me for Ireland. I love this place. I love the country. I love the people. Nothing. There's no real shock value when I moved here, culturally or anything like that. But it was, when I first moved here, I was kind of, the one thing about Irish culture, right, is if you didn't live here and you didn't go to school here, it was very hard to get a job at first, coming from another, being an American. I think part of that is the culture here. They're just not sure
Look out for
about
their own.
someone. Yeah, exactly. They didn't know my background, that I, had been well acclimated to Irish culture and, the country in general. So I think it was tough at first. I was looking for traineeships and internships at the time because I was pursuing law over here. So I wanted to be a lawyer, which is called a solicitor here. So that was my dream. And it was a struggle because I knew I wanted to live here, but I knew you have to have certain things to really, dig your heels in and, make it your home. And, I wanted a good job. I wanted a house. I wanted, to really dig my heels in and feel like this was home. And I wasn't getting that, the first while. And there were days when I literally drove around and all I had was the gym. Literally all I had was the gym, and I was getting back into shape, getting back in my fitness, but I had no outlet for it other than, pushing a barbell. And then I was in the gym one day and I saw a guy in a Pittsburgh Steelers jersey in the cardio room. And I just asked him, and he said, yeah, football's played here. And, it's been played here since the late 90s and all of this stuff. And I'm like, no way. And that was honestly the biggest shock of my life. And it was the best turning point for me moving over here as well.
So who was what was your original team you went down to or a way you got involved with Ireland football?
Well, right when he said it, literally I got home and I was like, it was something that always nagged at me. I think that I never fulfilled my potential in football back home. Like, and it always ate away at me. And I knew I still had it. And then when he said that to me, it was like right away. I mean, I couldn't even leave the gym fast enough. I was on my phone. I was looking up teams, and I was just, I was flabbergasted. I couldn't believe it. And it was like a dream come true. So I was just literally right away, I was messaging every team, near me. And the way it kind of panned out is the team I'm with now, the Dublin Rebels, at the time, they were in the playoffs for the football season. So they had a game the next day. So obviously I couldn't play. And they were like, Paul Grogan, a great guy from the Rebels, he's like, come on down, come watch the game. And then I got a message from another team that was actually closer to where I was living at the time with my brother. And they were like, we're training tomorrow. So for me, like not having played in so long and just, wanting something like this in my life, I was like, I'm going to go train tomorrow. So I chose the team that was nearby, that was, still actively playing. And I just wanted to put a helmet on and hit someone, man.
So how long had it been from having a helmet on and hitting someone to having a helmet on and hitting someone?
It had been around 8 years since I had proper contact. So it was, man, it felt good. It felt really good to say the least, you know. I think you know yourself, just the ritual of putting the gear on and padding up and taping up, and there's something special about that, you're about to go out there and do work, and hopefully shit on a few guys.
How'd that first season go? You're with kind of a younger club.
Yeah, the first season, I still obviously, I jumped right in. I didn't know where I wanted to play, to be honest. I didn't know the skill level. I kind of walked out there and was just like, what's it all about? And actually the first day of training, I met, one of my best friends to this day, Wello. Me and him were going out. He had just moved. He had just transferred, or he just left another team, the Dublin Rhinos, and he was coming to the Panthers. And me and him kind of walked together, and we were sizing each other up, because we're both, strong boys or whatever, athletic guys. And he was like, "Where are you going to play?" And I was like, "Running back." And he was like, "You should go play defense." So anyway, I said, "Fuck that. I'm right next to you." So so I went running back, and we, me and him just clicked right away. It was just same wavelength. We had big ambitions, big dreams, and he was like a little brother to me. So that's where I started. And the first season was rough on both of us, actually. We were fortunate. We had a great coach, Coach John Romo. He American guy, living over here, and he played college football as well. So a great mentor, and what I mean, just a great all around guy. But there was just a lot. It just seemed like a lot of politics. Me and Weller were doing, just things with training, and we weren't really getting our shot. And the first, we sat out the first couple games, and we were just at a point where like, let's go defense. Coach Romo's on defense, so we'll go over there and make our impact there. So halfway through the first season, I really hadn't touched the ball much. I hadn't really hit many guys. It was kind of like it was kind of a buzzkill in a way. But then when I switched to defense, I mean, the switch clicked in my head again. Immediately went to linebacker. And I just felt right at home. I was making big plays. Wello was playing. He was on the defense with me too. He was playing safety corner at the time. So me and him, just that first year, we just kind of put our hands up and said, "Look, we'll play where the team needs us," and we went defense. And the first year we won one game, 1-6, I think
Nice.
it was.
What year was this?
This was 2013.
So if you had to,
sorry, 2014.
how would you describe what has happened with the league and with football in general in Ireland in 2014, 2013 till today?
It's progressed so much and so quick. I think at first, when I first got here, like teams were really like, they were like cliques. They didn't associate with one another. They hated each other. Everyone hated this team or hated this player because he was so good or this and that. And I really hated that kind of culture, and that's what ultimately got me to the Rebels was, I met a lot of great guys in the Rebels that were like-minded people that just respected good players. So I think that whole attitude has changed where people can respect other people and other teams and say he's a baller or whatever. And I think that came with the formation of the national team. It was, when was it, 2015? I think that's when the big turning point was. Me and Weller had left Panthers, and we went to the Rebels. And that was the first year they really started a heavy recruiting drive for the national team, and were really pushing to get us some international games. And I think that was a big icebreaker for the league, to realize it's not about the individual club. It's about elevating the game over here and, putting a stamp on the world map for Ireland, and I think that's a very important thing because, when the national team was first formed, it was a lot of egos, and there's people on the team that literally were your arch nemesis on the field. I'm a big shit talker on the field, and I was kind of like, I was kind of worried when I went into the national team what everyone was going to say about me because, a couple of weeks before that, I was, screaming in the guy's face, taking the ball off him or whatever it was. So I think that was the biggest turning point in the league was once the national team was formed, you just saw a lot more unity across the league, and the skill level went up big time because people were really stepping up their game and really wanted to wear the Irish jersey on their back.
Perfect. So what year was your first season with the Rebels?
My first season with the Rebels was the 2015 season. 2015.
All right, 2015. So take me kind of through how'd that season go?
Well, that season, that was just a game changer in general. Me and Wello just, we just had some issues with the other team we were with, and at the end of the day, we met some great people on that team, and it just, unfortunately, it wasn't enough. We felt like we wanted more. We wanted to buy into a team that was really, really was trying to make a statement in the league, and we knew we wanted to be champions. So I think that was part of it as well. And we just decided we were going to go to Dublin Rebels. So we went there. The Rebels had been a top team in Ireland for many years. They have the most Shamrock Bowl victories in the country. And at the time we went there, it was, there was a team up the north called the Belfast Trojans that was kind of dominating the league. And me and Wello would go to the games, and we'd be like, you know what, we can add value to this team. So we decided to go to the Rebels, and they welcomed us with open arms. And I don't know what it was. It's one of those, you know yourself, you get a spark in a preseason where it's surreal, the amount of energy behind the team and the hype. And this was it, our first year. It just, everything just clicked. Another good friend of mine and yourself, Kenny moved over from the States, and he had played high school football as well. And it just seemed like all the pieces of the puzzle came together that year. I don't know what it was. There was just an energy in the team. And from get-go, we just started balling out. We won our first 3 games. Then our first game happened to be my old team, which was a great rollover victory. I think we beat them 60, by 40 points or something like that. So that was kind of a nice stepping stone towards our first championship. And then we had a speed bump in the middle of the season. We lost to the Belfast Trojans, which were, they kind of ran us over. I think they beat us by 10 points or something like that. But it kind of put a damper for a second, because we were like, damn, if we can't beat them, we can't win, But I don't know what it was. We just kept going. And then the next time we played them on a rainy Irish day in Belfast, and it was probably the best game of football I've ever been a part of. It was a turning point for our team. It was a realization that, we could really do this. And it was one of those, gritty football games where there wasn't a lot of points. There was a lot of drop balls and this and that, but it was really a turning point for our team for that season. And from then on, we just kept going. We built on that. And then, and then we made it to the Shamrock Bowl and got our first championship. And I got my first MVP trophy, which was great as well.
Who'd you guys play in the Shamrock Bowl?
We played the Belfast Trojans.
Oh, so played them 3 times in 1 year or twice?
Yeah, 3 times. Yeah, we usually play. It depends on the season, but that season we had played them twice. Typically, we do play them twice a season, and then again they were in a different division for the playoffs, so we just met again in the final.
Oh wow! So then year 2 with the Rebels, did you guys the championship again, or what happened?
Yeah, so that was that. We won the championship, and then I think it was that year we had the Atlantic Cup as well. Or sorry, it was the following year was the Atlantic Cup. So yeah, so that season ended. Then we got into national team. At that point, I had been scouted, and I made it onto the national team. They had a game then for planned, the first inaugural game against the Netherlands was that summer. So that was, a transition straight from national championship into national team and ready to go play our first international game.
And so how'd that whole process go, and how'd that team do?
It went good. At first, the national team, it wasn't very organized. It was kind of like we were just there. We had the right coaches in place. It was just organizing the guys and getting us to mesh. And we had such little time. I think a big problem was we were relying on team training as the supplement for national team training, which has its pitfalls because you're not meshing as new players together. You're only meshing with the team you play with during a regular season. So I think the first game, leading up to it, we got it done. We got there, but it was pretty hectic getting up to the first game. But we were all just pumped. Everyone was just so pumped to play for their country and to be able to go play in a stadium and for us being from Ireland, we don't have our own stadiums. We don't, you don't have bleachers. A lot of the things that you take for granted in the States, just aren't here. So to go over to a team like the Netherlands and they have a multi-million-dollar stadium and all of this kind of stuff, it was a dream come true for a lot of us. But we had our growing pains. It was tough. Like we weren't doing so hot the first half. I think I can't remember the score now. I think we were down by 3 scores or so, and then second half, we started kicking it back into gear. We started finding our footing, and then the game actually then got canceled due to lightning. So it was it fizzled out pretty quick.
So it's just one game that you guys played, or multiple?
So that year was just the one game. Then the next season, then I was back with the Rebels. We went to the national championship again. Similar scenarios before. We lost one game, made it to the final.
Who'd you lose to that year?
Sorry?
Who'd you lose to that year?
It was the Trojans again. We lost once to the Trojans.
These Trojans.
Yeah. So that was our one loss, and then they got beat in the playoffs. And then sorry, wait. It was. I'm just trying to make sure I have it right, but yeah, it was. And then we ended up winning out the playoffs, and we played the Carrick. At the time, they were called the Carrick-Fergus Knights. Now they're called the Belfast Knights. So we played them in the final. And again, another. Sorry.
So that was your second championship with them?
Yeah, that was my second national championship, which is a great, what I mean? Over here it's the game you want to play. Like I was saying, a lot of the games over here, you don't have bleachers and stuff like that. We have some nice, there is some nice venues we go to and stuff, but the Shamrock Bowl is the ultimate. You're playing in the Shamrock Rover Stadium. It's a proper big stadium, that a real American football game may be played in back, if it was back home. So, it's just a big buzz to be able to play in that place. So yeah, the second year was business as usual. We went in. It was funny, me and Wello, we were best mates. In that first year, I won the MVP trophy, and it was just kind of a rub on the back to say, hey, you made the right decision on, moving teams. And then a lot of people doubted Wello too. I think after the first season, had a great season with the Rebels that first year, but they kind of doubted him, and he showed out that game. He without a doubt, Wello was the contributing factor to us winning that championship. I think he threw for a completion. He ran a few touchdowns. I mean, he was all over the place. But yeah, it was great because he won that year. We skated by again. It was a close game, but we won at the end. And Wello got his due diligence, and he got his MVP trophy that year. So it was a great feeling for me and him to go back-to-back MVPs.
Was that 2016 or 2017? Just to get my years right.
That was 2016. Yeah.
2016. So there was 2017, 2018, 2019. Tell me about kind of the genesis of those 3 seasons.
Yeah, so national team fizzled out after that. There's funding issues and I don't know, the politics, whatever you want to call it. So we didn't get a game that year. So I actually ended up getting into coaching then. I was an assistant on the national team for the junior national team. So we had that. We had an American All-Star team come over, and American International, I believe it was. They came over, and their high school team played our junior squad, which was it was a revelation to say the least, for youth football in Ireland. I think that's our downfall is, we never really had a youth league up until then. So you were trying to gather the few players around the league that were, the appropriate age. And then, even that, you had a small pool, because you couldn't make contact here till you're 18. So a lot of them, a lot of players don't transition to American football till, early 20s, mid 20s. And at that stage, it's too late for the junior national team. So I hopped on board, to help out with the defensive backs. And, it was a great experience. The guys got blown out, and, but I think it was a wake up call for the league as well, that we needed to start implementing some youth programs, to get people, because you'd have people out there that maybe have only played a few games of football, and they're representing the country and playing guys that have been playing since they're 8 years old, So you have to take the positives with the negatives, though. And I think that, situations like that really, really make you, look at your own self introspectively and see how much more you can improve or how much more you can contribute to the team. So that was so that was my experience with coaching. And then the next season we were doing good. I had a decent season. Sorry, I'm bad with the numbers. I think we lost 2, and then we ended up doing great the second half of the season. So we kind of we had a few big plays that saved us. We beat the Trojans. We were in the semifinal against the Trojans, and I don't know what it was. You can say complacency kills, but I truly think that year was unfortunately, the fire had died a little bit. The training sessions weren't the same. They didn't have that spark. The guys, a lot of guys didn't want to train or didn't think they had to train. So, we weren't having, 30, 40 people showing up to train, and we were struggling to put together, a skelly or a scrimmage, and put people on the line. So I think that really, that really unfolded that season, how you could see how it affected, our overall season. And towards the end, I think it's what ultimately, why we lost. But yeah, so we made it. We had a close game against the Trojans. We won in the semifinal, made it to the final again, and we were playing Cork Admirals, which Cork had been a strong team for many years in Ireland, but they kind of were having some rebuilding. We're rebuilding. My first few seasons, but this season they really turned it around, and they were they had a great season, and they were a great team. We actually lost to them that season, and so we played against them. Unfortunately, I got in a car accident 10 days before the final, and I got a concussion, so I was deemed ineligible. So that was a tough game for me. It was my third national championship, but I didn't get to play in it. I just sat on the sideline, and unfortunately, some unfortunate events during the game. We lost on a couple of bad plays. We had a good shot at winning it, but the better team won on the day. So
then going into 2018.
2018, so 2018, then the national team campaign sparked right back up, which was great. I made that was kind of the light at the end of the tunnel for me after having a concussion. I don't know what it was. It was just one of those seasons for me. I had broken my finger. It just felt like it was one of those seasons where I was getting kind of knocked around or getting a few knocks here and there. So I was just happy, to play, to get back into it again, because it really wasn't fun watching from the sideline. So the national team got me motivated right again. I was healthy, got myself fit, and I was ready to play. And then it was obviously they were, they cut down the team. So after the national championship, they start bringing in training sessions, and they start narrowing the team down to a dressing squad. And then, unfortunately, some of the players don't get to dress on the day, or a kid up even. So yeah, so I got my shit together, got back going, and made the final roster for the national team. And we had a game in October. The Belgian Barbarians were coming over for our inaugural game with them. It was it felt like a new spark with the team. It was technically our second game, but I think a lot of people would say it was our first game. Because it was just the first real organized game. We had new jerseys. We had all the, we had just everything was organized and in place, and we were really fired up to really start, pushing this national team again. So there's a great buzz, great atmosphere with the guys. Everyone was just, the team at that stage, it was mainly this, it was a lot of the same guys from the first international game we played. So there is still that core leadership and core, structure within the team. So a few new guys came on, and we just went out there, and we had nothing to lose. Like, we had played one game against the Netherlands, and, there was only one way, which was up. When you're 0-1, there's only one way, which is up. So we just went out there, man. We went out there, and we played some gritty football. And another rebel, my buddy Pete, he had a standout game as running back, and he carried the team on his back for a lot of it. And we had Andy Dennehy, another former rebel. He was our quarterback, and it was just a really good squad, really strong squad. And we went out there and we got the job done.
Perfect. So then into the club season.
Yeah, so club season started back up. Unfortunately, there was some turmoil within the club that year. I'm sorry, that's my son in the background. Anyway, yeah. So that year was started off strange. I don't know. There was some issues with the club, with the inner workings of the club. The vets who'd been there for so many years, and the newer coaches and this and that. And to be honest, I stood back from it because I'd only been with the team for 3 years. So, I was the guy who liked everyone, and there's not one person on that team that's neither with us now or was with us before that I have a bad word to say about, because, I just believe you learn something from everyone. And, you just got to remove yourself from those situations and, focus on football. And that's what I did. So, I kind of came back. I just heard what happened, and we lost our quarterback, and one of our great players and coaches, and it was just kind of the team was in a bit of turmoil. Some other people had walked away, and taken up coaching jobs at other teams and stuff. So it was weird, especially it was a strange time. I think at the same time, a lot of people were pissed off about the Shamrock Bowl. A lot of people had it in their head that it was this one instance that caused it, and this is the reason, and this and that. And I think there's some finger pointing in general, which took away from focusing on rebuilding and getting back to the next year. It just seemed like a lot of focus and energy was on whose side, and this and that. It wasn't the best energy. It was a strange season for sure. And I don't. Yeah, I had switched to offense that season, and then I wasn't playing defense, and basically after I had a baby on the way as well, and it was just a lot of stuff going on. Wello had taken a break from football as well, and it was a strange season for sure. I played 2 games that season. I had my baby, or I didn't have it, but my missus had the baby. Second game in, so I took some time off, and then I had a bad injury. I hyperextended my knee and did some damage to my PCL against Cork on a kick return. So I don't know, to be honest, when I was out there playing, and it was just unfortunate we had lost players, and the spark wasn't there. But you're still going out there playing as hard as you can, and I was still going out there, doing the best I could, and it was just one of those seasons again. I got my knee injury, and that was it for me. It was probably the worst injury I've had so far in football, for sure.
What
It
was
was
the
a lot
team
of,
kind of record that year?
I believe I think we won 2 games.
All right.
So was it 2-4? I think 2-4, I believe. Sorry, I don't have my numbers with me. I believe, yeah, 2-4. And like we barely skated by relegation. So, over here, I'm not sure if it's the same in other leagues around the world, but, the bottom team in the division gets moved down a division. So it's done on points, and we were second from the bottom. So we were very fortunate to stay up in the upper division. So I think it was a wake up call for a lot of us, and we had to, at that stage, we really had to decide where the team was going and what direction we were headed in. We were on track to lose a couple of, our senior, great players that year as well. So it just, it was a bit of a blur, and it was the season to forget about. That's for sure.
So then the last season you played before COVID knocked out this season was 2019. How'd that one go?
Yeah. So do I have my 2019? I think I have my seasons wrong. I think that was 2019.
Okay, that was 2019. So then
Yeah. So
coming
that
into
was
2020 and now going towards 2021, what's kind of been
yeah.
the vibe and what's kind of what are your goals for football with the future? So you've had 3 Shamrock Bowls, national
Yeah.
championships. You lose one Shamrock Bowl, team kind of goes through some stuff, goes down a bit. Now it's
Yeah.
how are you going to get it back here? What are your personal goals? You're older now, still playing.
Um,
Did have that time off, so not as many hits on the body. So you're probably
yeah.
not as old
Look,
as other people your age.
to be honest, I didn't know where football was going for me. I was in 2 minds. I just started my family. I was, really trying to work towards a house, which is hard to balance with football as well. Work another job, a full-time job. So I didn't know what I wanted to do, to be honest. I'm a rebel. Like I bleed red. So no matter what, I was going there. And, there was, it was tough at first because we weren't sure who was going to be there. And then, towards the end, before the COVID kicked in, I just went back to the guys, the dudes, that are the stronghold of the team. And we just talked to each other, and, we knew something had to change. Like we couldn't, I didn't want to walk away. I wasn't sure after that injury and stuff. I'm 36. Like I want to be able to coach my child as well. And, you know what I mean? Watch him play and be active with him, so I think I started, I know it's not old, but at the same time, you still start thinking about, your mortality as far as, your lifespan on the football team. So I wasn't sure where I wanted to go or what, where my head was at. But then the COVID, but then towards the end, I was like, you know what, I'm going to give this season. I don't want to leave, I don't want the team, I don't want to walk away from my career and the team, when the team's, not where they used to be. Like, I want to walk away from this team, to know I'm passing the torch on to another, another legacy, that's another legacy that's gonna hold the team high and win championships. So I think ultimately that was my drive, and I was committed to it. Kenny had came back, so Kenny played with us that first year, and then he went back to America. His visa was up, and then he kind of sparked it again for me because he wasn't gonna let me not play football. I was kind of just whatever. And then he was messaging me. He's like, he was so pumped to come back and play football in Ireland. So I couldn't let him down. So we just sat down, beginning of the preseason. We were like, look, we're gonna do what we got to do. We're gonna make it happen. We're gonna play the positions we need to play, and build this team back up. Our new coach Ross, he'd been one of my best friends in the team since I started. He was another mentor towards me and took me under his wing as far as being a rebel, and just get me into the club. So he was our new coach, and we just he's a leader, and we followed him, and that's where we were. And then I think the COVID thing made it, lit the fire even more for me. Not being away from football this long is just, I can't imagine my life. It's brought so many good things to my life. I can't imagine not being it. Like, I met my wife and I've had my child because of my first national championship. So, I was like, I got to keep playing football. So that was it. That was the mentality. And then going into it, it was just, we were talking and saying where are we gonna, who we're gonna have here and there and this and that. And then, yourself came along and, I think ignited a big spark in us as well. Cause I think, to have a leader like yourself out there, is really, on the field, not just on the sideline, is a real game changer for us. So I'm just super fired up about football, man. And you know what? Like, my goals for this season is I need more of these. I need more of these. Maybe another one of these MVPs as well. But you could very well have that this year, bro. I'm not being greedy. I just want gold. That's all I want.
What would you, with your training background, how would you, how long do you think you could? Tom Brady's 43, still playing football. How long do you think you could keep being strong and fast and keeping yourself healthy, with what you know about the body and stuff?
That's been a big game changer for me because, if you asked me when I was 18, I would have thought, your shelf life as a football player is, maybe 30s or something, and here I am 36 playing and probably playing at one of the highest levels I've ever played, to be fair.
Still fast
I
and
think
strong as ever? Like, if I said year that you were the strongest and year you were the fastest for your age?
Yeah, I mean,
Number?
I think
29, 31, what number would it be?
I think I'm more balanced now. So I was my strongest in college for sure, but I was my slowest in college as well.
Yep.
So over the years, I think with my body, I was with the growing and not growing and all this kind of stuff. I started training at a young age, and I was training wrong. I was training like a bodybuilder, and back then that was the type of training that it was. There was a lot less focus on functional training and stretching and things like this, plyometrics, calisthenics, and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that plays part and parcel to your longevity on the field. And over here, I decided I wanted to dive deeper, so I got my personal training qualification, and then started diving in. Got my first part of my strength conditioning certification done as well, and I really just started to understand myself and my own body type, and what I needed to work on, and what my strengths were. So from then on, and that was kind of the start of my first, the first year I went to the Rebels. I really focused on changing up the way I was training, more functional training, a lot of plyometrics, a lot of speed training. And I felt so much better that way. I wasn't carrying any excess weight. I was still strong, but I was a balance of strong, fast, explosive. And, that's what I've been working on the last 3 years. And I truly, apart from these, it's hard to do a lot of strength training and, certain functional training when you're training from home, obviously with the COVID restrictions, but that's my path. And that's the path I'm going to follow for the rest of my life, because, I truly think that's the fountain of youth right there, is staying active and knowing your body, staying well balanced, and like yourself, you feed yourself with the right things, you are what you eat. And I think just having that intuition now has probably, I'd like to say we'll add at least another 5 years on. We'll say 5 championships, 5 more championships.
If you had to give young guys who don't lift weights and stuff advice on what they could do and should do for their body, the quickest, simplest way you could say it, what would you tell them to do?
Know yourself. Every person is different. Know your strengths, know your weaknesses, focus on your weaknesses, and focus on becoming balanced. Other than that, you need to, sorry, man. I kind of lost my train.
Question.
Yeah. it's really, other than that, you got to work hard. You have to be in it every day. Like, it becomes monotonous, but you have to have that spark inside that drives you. You can't just go in and not be focused and just do the weights to do the weights. Your mind is an integral part of how well you're going to do. So if your mind's not focused in the gym and you're just going through the repetitions, you're never going to gain anything from it. You need to know exactly what you need to work on, and you need to have that fire every time you go in there and push yourself.
That was a good answer. 10 out of 10. What's your leadership style?
Sorry?
What's your leadership style? How good of a leader are you, and what's your leadership style?
I'm not, I think I'm, forgive me, but I think I'm kind of, I'm bipolar in some ways, because I just, some minutes, if I'm on the field, I'm a completely different person. You wouldn't expect the same person you're talking to now out on the field. I'm very loud, in your face. My leadership style is fire you up, you know what I mean? Slap you across the head, scream, make animal noises, and, snort and grunt, and, you know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. It's, that's my one thing with defense, is I'm always out there yelling. I'm always pumping them up. I'm always getting inside the other team's head. I'll have guys that will literally chase me down the field just to hit me, even though they missed their assignment. So, other than that, I like to teach guys. I like to be interactive with guys. So, as far as trainings and stuff, I find myself, gravitating towards the guys that, want to learn or look at me and look up to me. I'm always the kind of guy to look out and help someone out or guide them along. I'm the first person to greet you when you join the Rebels. So if you're going to join the Rebels, you're going to fucking meet me first. I can promise you that. So, but other than that, man, that's it. Everyone on that team is my brother, and, I look out for every one of them. And, I think one thing is I want to become a stronger leader. I don't think you can ever be strong enough. I think, everyone has their good qualities as a leader, but I think everyone has their flaws as well, maybe on the way it comes across to certain people, or, how it impacts people. So to me, I'm still growing as a leader, and I want to be more of a leader.
Would you say offense or defense is more important to winning championships? Just quick answer. Don't be political. Just be quick.
Defense. Has to be defense. Has to be defense.
All right. And why? Real quick. Why?
Because you can take the ball, and you can you can steal the ball, and you can score with sorry. I don't know, because you can play both sides of the ball if you want to, if you're good enough. You can run a touchdown, or you can prevent a touchdown.
Who's your favorite player?
Deion Sanders, for sure.
Why?
Deion. He's an athlete. It's just his charisma. I just think he's a freak of nature. To be honest, he's my all-time favorite American football player. I watched him since I was a kid for Florida State, and I just think he's an incredible person. For him to play two sports and then play two sides of the field, and, just be so pumped up, so positive. He has that charisma. Deion's the man. So that's him all the way.
1 to 10, how big of a Bucks fan are you? Buccaneers.
10. Since 10? They're orange and white, yeah.
Florida State 10 is a little different than Bucks 10, or same thing? 10?
Yeah. So, I'm a college football guy. So 10 Florida State, 9 Buccaneers, but, Bucks are good. So it's a 10 this season. And Florida's 9 this season.
Who's the funniest teammate you've ever had?
Simon Mackey.
Simon Mackey.
Yeah, he's just an animal. Just, the craziest guy you'll ever meet. Like, he's the guy who says, "Hold my beer and watch this." He's just crazy on the field, crazy off the field, and he's always making you laugh.
What's the next thing that needs to happen to grow the sport in Ireland?
Youth. I think youth team needs to be, a proper youth team needs to be, really focused on. You have a lot of great guys that transition from GAA, which is a native sport to Ireland, which isn't played anywhere else. Hurling, same native sport to Ireland. and rugby. I think those are the kind of the three biggest pools we're pulling from. And GAA football and hurling, they're very you have to have great hand-eye coordination. So I think as players they transition really well. Rugby, without saying, I think it's a close enough sport to American football, and that's typically where you get your big guys that are, what I mean, know how to hit. But like I said, when you're transitioning at 18 years old and you're trying to, change ball size, methods of scoring or rules and all this kind of stuff, that's when, or ball shape even, these kind of things, take time to develop. And, the younger generation is really missing out on, core fundamentals. I think that's what got me so far over here was my core fundamentals that, there's two things you can't teach at 18 years old, and that's coordination, and you can't teach how to knock a guy on his ass. Aggression and coordination are very hard to teach after 18. So I think it needs to be integrated at a younger age. Kids need to be involved, whether it's from a flag, standpoint or whatever, which they're doing. They have a youth league now, but again, the youth league just obviously needs to, popularity needs to grow with it. Parents need to be involved. So I think we need to reach out to the community and get parents involved and realize that this is a sport that you can progress from. You're not just stuck here playing at an amateur level. Now there's so many opportunities to go to mainland Europe, and play the sport at a high level and, be successful, not only in the sport, but, there's opportunities there, to make a career out of it as well, if you're good enough. And, it's no different from any other sport. It's 1 in a million chance, but at the end of the day, it needs to be considered on the same level as, other sports, youth sports, which I think is the hardest thing, because Ireland is so, they have their own sports here, which are only played here, and, they're part of the culture. They're part of, everyone's household. And, it's very hard to break that bond, or get someone to focus elsewhere outside of GAA at a young age.
What's the best thing about Ireland that Americans wouldn't know about Ireland because they've only seen the Lucky Charms?
I think I don't just the atmosphere, just the people, really. The people here are so friendly, and when you have a group of friends here, it's just, people are so relaxed, and they love to crack jokes, and they love to just kind of, friends are very close here, and family is very important here as well. So I think just in general, the friendliness of people here, and the culture in general, I think is just a real, it's just a real nice place to be, I think, in general.
Perfect. Conrad Cook, strong safety, linebacker, 2-time champ, international football player. Thanks for hanging out.
Thanks, Ty. Good to talk to you, brother. We're coming for you this year, boys.